Hey everybody, welcome back to Brick System Brothers. I've got two PAB cups to look at today. On the left right here, this one is from Louisville, Kentucky. On the right, this one is from downtown Chicago, the Water Tower Place location in the mall. And quite a different range of parts at each store. So we'll open these up and see what I was able to find. For the Louisville parts, total of 792 in that large PAB cup. Nice mix of different parts here. I had some 1x3 bricks, dark blue and white. The 1x1 glitter transparent purple brick. Next to that is the 1x10 plate, the vibrant yellow. And that is a new color for this year, so trying to see if I can get a hold of some different representations of that color as they come through. For example, the referee minifigure uses that for the torso. So yeah, keeping an eye out for that color. Don't have anything planned as far as using it yet. I think it does look good in the emergency vehicles that LEGO has put in the city line so far. So the fire truck has that as an accent color, and I think that works pretty well. So that's on the back burner. I might just hold on to those 1x10 plates. Another plate here is the 6x8 white. Large white plates, especially older ones that get discolored. It's just nice to have those around sometime. So probably could have got a few more, but they take up a lot of room in the cup. And I did do a little bit of stacking just to help with that. But I don't necessarily want to use a lot of volume just for plates, especially because I do have a decent stock of plates. So just 4 of those. Another plate that I actually got quite a few of is the 1x1 medium nougat plate. And right next to that is the 1x1 upward bracket in the same color. Probably my favorite piece from this cup is the Nexonite Pentagon tile. This was featured in our Hue Tap series, talking about how to use that a few different ways, how it can tessellate. So that could possibly be something that shows up in a modular project on that sidewalk or as a floor detail. It's actually used pretty well in the brick bank. Eventually hoping to take a look at that modular here on the channel. Also have the 2x2 with the cut in yellow. Significant number of those. 1x1 with the peak in orange. There's another part I did have already from a previous PAB haul. In fact, the orange and the blue 1x3 I've already picked up somewhere along the line. So sometimes I do forget about what I've already found on the PAB wall. There is quite a bit of overlap, and that was something I talked about summer of 2021 when I was trekking east and stopping at a bunch of LEGO stores in the span of a month. I ended up actually buying more small pick and build cups, so this size right here, just because a lot of the stores that I had stopped at, the overlap of what parts they had on the wall was pretty high. So I didn't necessarily have a lot of different pieces to choose from by the end of the trip. But, you know, it's not all the same everywhere, so there's enough of a mix in there to get some different parts. And to wrap up this cup, we had the 1x2x2, the almost fully studded brick here with all those surfaces. If you put 2 of these guys back to back, you can start doing quite a bit with the studs not on top methods, like that. And just the bottom there would have those anti-studs still. So not quite the LEGO dice element, but something kind of close to that. And the last one up here is that jewel, transparent red. It's kind of interesting. Another part that I had from a PAB wall, I think actually going back to 2019, is this crystal. And found that up in Mall of America, Minneapolis. So there's the orange tent. These parts are going to go over here on the PAB section of the Acro Mills. And what I'm trying to do with these is keep a lot of the PAB parts in their own drawer. Once I can start remembering where they're located, I won't have to go and dig through some of the other places. Especially since there's kind of a higher quantity of these as they come in compared to something that I'm getting in a bulk lot where it's just going to have 1 or 2. That's better off sorted in my regular structure where all the colors are mixed, something like this. Over here, however, I like to keep things a little bit more separated out. The key here is I'm trying not to move these drawers around as much so that as I use them I can hopefully remember where the parts are. That's something I'm not as good at on this side of the wall. Over here it's a little easier because I group things by structure. So for example, this is all arches, and as you work your way across, I've kind of got a system in place where I don't have to remember where every individual drawer is. I just kind of remember where the general location is, and then I can zero in from there. But that doesn't necessarily work as well on the PAB section because there's not as many, similar elements in a family or in a structure to do that system. So instead, I'm kind of filling it as I go. Like something up in this corner would represent some of the earliest PAB cups that I sorted out, and kind of working down and across. And then I'm trying to leave those where they're at, and as I come to this area of the wall to grab parts, eventually have that memory. And here's Chicago, 624 pieces. Now the last cup I used VIP points, so I didn't have a price per piece. This one was just the flat rate, $16, so it works out to about 2.5 cents per piece. Not bad. Definitely have done better at other PAB hauls, but I'll definitely take that rate. And a nice mix of parts here from Chicago. The nice large quantity of 2x2 dark red slopes right here. So useful for building a roof, just stocking up on those while they were there. Yeah, probably would have liked to get a few more of these window frames. The curve 3x3 actually is the size of these guys. So I ended up with 8, and probably should have put a few more in the cup instead of some of these other parts. But 8's alright. I had a few already, so it's not like those are my only curved window frames, but depending on how I end up using those, and possibly wanting to use a lot of them, probably could have got another small cup worth of those window frames. It is a nice part. So we'll see if I end up regretting that, but 8 for now to start with. And then the other thing in here is the blue chair. Usually the blue chair is something I get when buying used Lego, but I did see it on the wall and couldn't resist getting one. So that kind of the signature part, one blue chair in the mix. Some nice teal parts actually. The bracket, 1x2 down bracket right here, and that is in dark turquoise or teal. So not a super common part in my collection. I don't think it's super rare by any means, but that is here now. Other teal parts are the fenders, kind of that 2x4 shape, and the double or triple curved slope, kind of the shaping on there. So a couple of these I have from the Hidden Side houseboat, or lighthouse I guess. I turned it into a houseboat. But yeah, getting 4 more now. And then some 1x8 tiles is the other thing in here. Ooh, 1x1 sand blue tile. I want to talk about that part briefly. I was working on a mock at one point that used that part in Studio, and I had looked up the prices for it. This probably would have been around 2020, and I was kind of surprised. At the time, these tiles were on Bricklink anywhere from 25 cents to $1, and I don't remember if that was new or what exact parameters were on there, but yeah, I was kind of surprised to see a higher price on this sand blue 1x1 regular tile. I dug into that a little bit, and this part wasn't introduced until 2002, and then for about 14 years it would have been locked to that one. It was a little tiny Star Wars mini build. It just had one of those tiles in it, and it probably wasn't around very long, a couple years. And so for most of the 2000s, early 2000s, and until about 2016, this part was actually really rare. Then in 2016, it has kind of gradually worked its way into some other sets. Most recently this year with the Rivendell, almost 100 of these sand blue 1x1 tiles in that set. So not rare anymore by any means, but 3 or 4 years ago when I was looking at using this part, it was still kind of pricey. And that was kind of in the back of my mind when I saw these on the wall. I was like, oh, I should get some of those. Now, the reason I don't have a whole ton of them is because they were actually mixed in with another part, and there weren't very many in that bin. So I grabbed what I could see. There might be a few still buried in there, but yeah, if those had been by themselves on the PAB wall, definitely would have ended up with more of those. As it is, I've got 23 or so that's not bad. Another sand blue part here is the 2x2 with those studs on the side. Don't think I have a lot of those in sand blue yet. And then the 1x3 with that cool yellow or bright light yellow, depending on whose color system you use. So a little 1x3 plate there. The 1x2 tile with the wax seal. It's kind of a newer print. I don't like to go overboard when I find a printed part on the PAB wall, just because then I end up with a huge pile of them and don't really know what to do with them. But I did grab several of these printed envelope letter things. And another bracket, red 1x2 upward bracket, and the 1x1 round dark blue tile. So this is super common in our art sets now, which I do not have any of those art sets. I'm not exactly sure where I'll be using this many round tiles, but those are super easy to pack in there as filler. Don't take up a lot of room, and you can get a lot of them at once really nicely. So the slopes take up a little more room, but I don't mind because that is a good part to stock up on. So I think I had exactly 150 of those dark red slopes, and again, that total count for the Chicago PAB cup was 624 parts. Pretty decent. So these guys will go probably in this column right here. This one's actually pretty much full. I'm using the bottom 3 rows for my regular sorted parts, so those are kind of locked already from the PAB stuff. And then I did jump down to this one and start using this one for some of the higher quantities as well. So some of the PAB selection that I've already got quite a few of that kind of outgrew the smaller drawer have jumped down to this one. So if it does take up a whole Acromills drawer, or it can be split like that and have the same part side by side, that's nice. So there's a couple down here, but now the single drawers, the smaller drawers, have kind of moved over to this one and starting to work my way down these 2 columns. Once again, I have already started to fill in the bottom row with some other parts. So it isn't a very strict system that I have going right now. And again, like I said, once it's in place, I'd really like to try and leave it there so I can get used to where it's at. But overall, the Acromills drawer system that I do have is somewhat fluid. Most of the time as I sort pieces in, they will fill up one of these little drawers, and at that point it's time to graduate them to something larger, like the Sterilite shoebox size. So as that happens, parts get moved out, other parts get moved in, and over the course of a year or two, something like this Acromills drawer down here might have half the drawers completely switched from what they started as. And as long as that's gradual, that doesn't hurt too much in terms of remembering where things are at. The other thing that helps is if I am building out of these drawers as well on a regular basis, and I'm actually going and grabbing parts and kind of have that memory of where it's at. So it's definitely not a static system, and that's one of the reasons I have shied away from doing labels, is because the way that I have it set up, I'd be peeling off labels, moving labels around every couple weeks depending how often I sort, and I'm not really interested in doing that. I'd rather just have a system where I can remember general location and then zero in from there, and so far it's worked pretty good. So just kind of extending that to the PAB parts, and maybe we'll do a tour of this corner someday. But for now, that is all I've got. 2 large PAB cups, about 800 plus about 600 is about 1,400 parts worth of Lego coming in fresh, new, right out of the molds and into the collection. Hopefully we'll see some of this stuff get used this year. But some of it might just have to wait for a while until a project comes along that uses them. That's kind of the name of the game here. Thanks for watching today, guys, and we will catch you next time on Brick System Brothers.